Don in London, hello. It's February the 7th, 2013. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. My behaviour, equally addictive, sometimes around people, places and things. Trying to fit in, trying to be perfect, not sure about what I was doing half the time. But if I thought you wanted me to do something, and I felt inclined to do it, and it would please you, I would probably do it. And of course then we get into all sorts of scrapes, which can be fun, they can be tragic, they can be good, bad and ugly. But with drink inside, I don't know that I was actually in command of my wits, let alone anything else that was going on. And I didn't really know who I was from day to day, other than somebody fitting in, just fitting in, and not knowing I had the freedom to choose a direction if I wasn't fearful. And I think and feel mostly that fear ruled a lot of my decisions, because I wanted to be loved and I wanted to be successful. So when people asked, will you do this, do you want to go out, you name it, I probably said yes to it, and was very convivial with you, and at the same time not understanding, why am I doing this? So many choices made to fit in and try and love people as they are, who they are. But if you don't know yourself very well, in this case, who am I didn't really know. So it was difficult, not only for me, but anyone trying to relate to me, because I would just go along with what was going on. Not very good. But also having a whole load of opinions and beliefs, which were not good. Anyway, I'm learning one day at a time how it is to be sober, and what has helped me most over the years is a fellowship, and that fellowship is Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for people in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, because they are unique and authentic and able to speak for themselves where they will. And I've never been given the opportunity to have anonymity as such in the outside world, because it was obvious to everyone where I got to, living on the streets, I was an alcoholic, not in recovery. So it takes time to wherever we get to, and if we're still alive, we've got a chance. So my videos are about, hopefully, the truth of how recovery works for me. And the good news is that the fellowship of AA is all about common ground around being sober, and you keep your opinions and beliefs which are right for you, and your affiliations, and whatever it is that makes life work for you, apart from drinking, you keep a hold of your identity, or as much of your identity as you can understand. And common ground around sobriety, with as many beliefs and opinions as you can possibly imagine. So how does it work? Well, I've got the AA preamble here, so if you are in AA, you know this, and it's just a mental jogger, like for me, every morning. And if you're not in AA, this is just a touch of how it can be. But what I know is, it's the many voices in the fellowship which make the difference, because it's all about sharing experience, strength and hope. So I am but one voice. There are many voices in AA, all different. So we find our compatible path, if you like, with people we identify with and with whom we can share. And anonymity provided sanctuary that this can happen. Sanctuary to find out the truth of how to stop drinking, the truth of who you can be today. So AA's preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And it's often said by the many in the fellowship that it is an emotional and spiritual journey, one day at a time. Emotional, knowing what your feelings are in the moment of now and being able to cope with them. And that's described as being spiritual, living in the moment. So it's the good, the bad and the ugly of life, that we live sober. It doesn't mean we're not prone to where life can take us, because it can take us anywhere. So my thoughts this morning, I used to share the daily reflections from the fellowship, and a lot of people are doing that now, and I think I've moved on beyond that. I still read them because they're good. They inspired me to stay in fellowship, and they inspired me to try and live reality rather than some fantasy of what I thought life ought to be. And emotional and spiritual means that I accept that life will have its ups and downs. I also accept there are things that I can do, and I also accept there are things I can't do. And I also accept there are things I just don't want to do because I don't feel like it. And I also accept when I'm ill and I can't do things. So I have to do a lot of acceptance, because acceptance is the key. And I'm happy to be me today, even though I am not the man I was. Anyway, here we go. My reflections, which in February were all about the second step of the 12-step program. 12 principles of living, and step 2 is being restored to sanity. Came to believe that I could be restored to sanity by a higher power, or came to believe a higher power would restore me to sanity. So where is the higher power in all of this? Now, it's what you believe which matters. Fellowship is common ground. It's what you believe which matters, and how you go about it. And if it's keeping you sober, so you've got your freedom back to choose and make choices as they come your way, you're on track. So my emotional and spiritual path included, looking backwards this is, lost weekends which turned into days, weeks, months and years. I do have cherished memories of my father. When I was about 15 years old, he really lost the plot when it came to living. He had a nervous breakdown, but we didn't know it was a nervous breakdown. We just knew he was broken. Drink was his best friend in the end, and he was very lonely. I learned how to drink like him. At first, drink helped me feel life, convivial and joyful, and then over the years I felt nothing but oblivion with the last drink in hand. So it starts off, it works, and then it doesn't work. And then how long do we keep on doing that old behaviour? So my last drink in a hostel in King's Cross, the Cartwright Hotel. It wasn't a hotel, it was a hostel. After walking the streets, I don't know for how long, I went to a hospital emergency department and asked for help. And this was after I bumped into a friend of mine who I used to work with, a psychiatrist, a professor of psychiatry as it happens. And I asked him for help, and he said, no, you need to go to AA. And that stung badly. So anyway, I went to the hospital emergency department and asked for help. Good fortune on that day to get a psychiatric assessment. They kept me waiting for several hours until I was coherent. Some advice followed, and they rang up the homeless unit, not far from where the hospital is. And then I was sent to King's Cross, that Cartwright Hotel. The hostel for degraded people just like me, drugging and drugged, addled by drink and drinking. The room I had, stained by life, and me with a bottle of vodka in hand, which I got on my way there walking. It wasn't many miles, but King's Cross is not exactly where I thought I would end up that day, in this horrible place. So the room stained by life, and me with a bottle of vodka in hand, cracking the bottle open, a gulp and a swallow, and looking at my surroundings, which were dreadful. I said to myself, if I drink this bottle, it's the end of me. And I was used to drinking a bottle of vodka a day, or whatever I could get my hands on. I don't know why, I just felt this was my last chance. no matter how horrible the room and everything, and how rejected I felt by everybody. And by this stage I couldn't even dare contact family or old friends. I just couldn't cope with those ideas. I poured the vodka down the sink and sat until dawn shivering. A warm June morning, it was June 1st, I remember it well, and I was frozen stiff. Alcoholism and addiction, the madness of doing the same thing over and over again, trying to get respite from reality or simply not wake up, which is where I got to. Isolated by my own failure and self-will broken, that first admission of needing help, professional or otherwise, helped me accept the next few months were going to be painful. And what they said in the fellowship was, well, you can't give yourself a target of a few months of pain. All you can do is try live one day and try live in the moment. And I knew they were right, but my head said if I get to 90 days, I've done 90 meetings or more, maybe I'll get a sense of what they're talking about. Yeah, I knew the answer lay in fellowship for me, the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, where it was okay to have failed miserably, to give up an old life which was killing me and start a new life, sober just for a day. And I knew it by my thinking, but my feeling was, why bother? Why not just slip it out of this world? That's what was going on. It was very difficult. And I needed to comply with doing things which are good for me rather than doing the things which were killing me and living in a nightmare. It may seem obvious to any curious observer without the malady, the insanity of drinking ourselves to death. But we don't think it's going to do that. We think one day it will be all right again, but it never is. Or wasn't for me. I can't speak for you. The last night of emptiness and complete desolation, where one gulp was enough to know, if I kept drinking, life was over for me. And I remembered my dad years earlier, on his deathbed, when I asked him about why he had stopped drinking once he knew he was going to die. He said he hadn't got anything to fear anymore, and he was very sorry for everything. I don't know that I feared dying. At the same time, I felt life could get no worse, and maybe, if I changed and went through all the pain, I could have a chance at something or anything, just for one day. And my dad was very sorry. He didn't want it to be that way, but he was a con man. He conned himself. He believed he knew better, and he didn't about so many things, but we loved him, and I have cherished memories of my dad. I do. I think a lot of people don't have cherished memories of him, but those are people he conned. Anyway, sharing experience, strength and hope of how it used to be, the good, bad and ugly days of drinking is important. So I need to share the old life as much as sharing experience, strength and hope of how it is today, which is equally important, and it's good, bad and ugly, just as life can be, because we don't choose good, bad and ugly. We get hit and experience good, bad and ugly on any given day. So it's not about, we don't control it, and that's about of letting go. Yeah. So what is the difference? The difference between drinking days, which went on for decades without respite, and sober days, which are lived just one day at a time, is what changes. So I don't need to take the edge off with a drink. In the old days I was supporting my best friend, alcohol. In sober days I learned all about support and fellowship, making the best choices possible, making mistakes and learning from them, and growing, with freedom to have choice based on reality, rather than a fantasy today. Could I have done it differently? It doesn't matter. Now firmly in fellowship and living free to make the best choices I can based on reality. So it's not about fantasy. It's never about fantasy. We can still have fantasies. Sometimes when you get old, that's all you've got left. Older. But it's just the way it is, you know. It's the way life is. It's not saying there are things I can do and I can be ambitious, but those ambitions need a first step, either to go forwards or to go backwards. And if you know that the ambition is worthy of a try, because you've got an inkling and an idea and some support, you go for it. If that is what you want to do, you have to feel the need to do it. And if you say, so, I feel right about doing this, and it's ambitious, and I'm going to go for it, go for it. Know your limits, or ask people the can do and the can't do around it. Common ground in fellowship. Oh no, I've gone a step ahead there. My daily reminder about sanity. As I wake up, either I say it aloud or simply in my head, I am powerless over alcohol, and if I take a drink, life becomes unmanageable. I have been restored to sanity by a power greater than me just for today, and I'll tell you about my higher power in a minute. Well, I'll share about it. I won't tell you, because if I tell you, it's no good. You've got your higher power already. It's what you choose it to be, and what you understand and what you believe. That's none of my business, and I wouldn't want to impose my understanding of higher powers on you. But I need to share about them. Yeah. As I wake up, either I say it aloud or simply in my head, I am powerless over alcohol, and if I take a drink, life becomes unmanageable. I've been restored to sanity by a higher power, or a power greater than me, just for a day. And I need keep letting go the notion that my way is best, that I know better than others. I don't. I need to chat, support, have empathy, and then work together. And then I recite and I need to keep letting go the notion that my way is best, and ask for help if help is needed, just for a day. And then I recite the Serenity prayer, either out loud or in my head. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. My higher power, the truth of now, how to love and be loved back unconditionally, and wisdom learned all day long. So the higher power, truth, love and wisdom, which often resides in all the people around me, or all the people I encounter. There's nothing wrong with finding out what's going on and asking for help. We are not, we're not the centre of the universe. We are merely players on a stage, as Shakespeare would point out. From the world and the universe as it is today, higher powers all around and willing to help in fellowship and in my community, truth, love and wisdom is everywhere in the moment of now. And with my senses alert and open, I can be myself and be a human being just for today. So my senses work. I'm not closed down like I used to be. I'm open to suggestions. And don't forget, the most important thing is an emphatic no is better than a half-hearted yes. So no, it doesn't feel right for me. It's good enough. And just because I can do something doesn't mean I ought to be doing it. So just because it's a juicy big thing which might make me rich doesn't mean I ought to be doing it, because it can be part of a life which is not good for me. And that's important. Common ground in fellowship. This is what really is important to me. Common ground in fellowship, learning how to be sober and live sober. Common ground with many faiths and beliefs. Some believe in God, some believe in their own higher power being the good of life. And we have agnostics and atheists and crackpots. And sometimes when we all come in together, when we're new, we're all crackpots. We're insane, driven mad by drink. And then we learn what is good for us. And each person learns their reconnection to their beliefs and opinions, or connecting to the beliefs and opinions which are right for them. So common ground sober, and the rest of it is up to you and your understanding of what's going to work. And that's the brilliance of it. It's brilliant because nobody can tell you what to do. But there are some crackpots who will try. So crackpots in this case, people who would impose their ideas and notions about higher powers, and getting down on your knees to pray. How you practice your beliefs is what you do, and you don't impose your opinions and instructions on others. So if you're out there as a sponsor and you're feeling like the need to control, instruct, and get your rocks off by controlling other people, I hope they tell you to fuck off. That's my belief and opinion. Don't be controlled by anybody. If there is an ultimate control or a freedom to make choice, it's connected to truth, love and wisdom, and often the truth, love and wisdom comes from the many and not just one person and their opinion. So how you practice your beliefs is what you do, and you don't impose your opinions and instructions on others. I was listening to somebody recently sharing about God and their role as a sponsor, and as a sponsor sharing about their sponsee, the person they're trying to help, in a wheelchair trying to get down on their knees to pray. Nowhere in fellowship is there a suggestion that a person needs to prostrate themselves in other words, get your head down on your knees to pray. It doesn't say that anywhere in fellowship. That's part of other religions and beliefs, and that's perfectly acceptable if that's what you believe in. Nowhere in fellowship is there a suggestion that a person need prostrate themselves in order to communicate with a power greater than themselves. If it is your practice to kneel down and pray, all well and good, and that's fine, because it's about humility to listen to the universe, truth, love and wisdom. So however it works for you, lying on your back, kneeling on the ground, running around a track, cycling, where you get your connection to the truth, love and wisdom of now, and freedom to make the right choices, and if you don't know what they are, ask for help. That's how it works. So nobody ought to tell you what to do. And I wouldn't criticise anyone for the way they get in touch. I mean, I used to do it swimming, I used to do it on a rowing machine, I used to do it this way, that way, or whatever way. It was looking and trying to find the truth of now. But in the old days, full of drink, it was always about my friend, drink. In recovery, it's about everyone asking for help, humility, to learn. So, I would never suggest to anybody in a wheelchair, get down on your knees and pray, or even say to them, is that the wise thing to do? But if it's their belief, fine. It's about your choices. I mustn't say any more of that, because it's not for me to judge other people. I do judge people who try to control others, or suggest or let them do stupid things which are just against reality, the truth, love and wisdom of now. Yeah. Fellowship is not about mysticism. It is about helping each other in practical ways to find an emotional and spiritual outlook in the moment. Living in the moment of now, where feelings are felt equal to the size of what's going on, right-sized. Not the mountain of crap that we built up. And part of the 12 steps is how to get that stuff off your back, so you can live in the moment and feel right in the moment. There are many with control issues in fellowship and feel like they are in alliance with God. And as far as I can make out, God has not aligned himself or herself or itself with anything since the dawn of time and the universe. So I don't expect that alignment with a sponsor in a fellowship is any better than anyone else on the planet who tells you what to do today. A suggested program with common ground, simply to live sober with freedom of choice, with your own beliefs and opinions one day at a time. So the faith in a higher power doesn't manifest in a sponsor, as far as I can work out. And sponsorship is not essential to recovery. What I would say is I've got sponsors for different ideas and activities. I've got a sponsor who tells me or shares with me he had a big life with his own private airline jet. Well, not an airline, but his own jet aeroplane, a great big thing, but Boeing. and flew around the world doing things which were very important in the entertainment business. Not a front of house person, but somebody who worked behind the scenes, but was very, very rich. And it all went, and what do they do now? They live a life of sobriety, and sometimes tempted to go back to it because invited to do the old job, the old projects. And he says, why? He says it's attractive, but you know, I enjoy the life I have today. Why on earth would I want to go back and do that? Why on earth would I want to go back and put myself under all that pressure again? And the question mark on that is, should I, could I, would I? Always. It's a free choice. And the most important thing for me, my learning last weekend was a reminder of the old life. Meant I chose, after a bit of emotional upset, that it was not right for me. It did not feel right for me, and I had that choice. Sober, I had the choice. And the mad head says, yeah, you know it all in your head intellectually, but are you resilient enough? Have you got the emotional resilience? Have you got the tenacity? And the answer is, I'm actually fucked on that score, so I know it is not for me. And that thing about Gandhi and the emphatic no being better than a half-hearted yes, the emphatic no, I don't feel it's right for me, means I stop thinking about the old life. An emphatic no, I don't feel it's right for me, would have nipped it in the bud. But I said, well, I'll have a look at it. And it was a half-hearted yes. So the half-hearted yes led me into all the old thinking, which gave me sleeplessness and nightmares. And I don't need that. And I shared it with the person whose work it is, or project it is. And he said, it takes guts to admit where you are with all of this, and I respect that. And I hope to see you soon. And that he understood, because he's doing it, and I'm not. Anyway, that's how it goes. So an emphatic no, based on feelings, it doesn't feel right for me right now, unless you can persuade me, and I can ask, see where it goes. But an emphatic no, when you know it's not right, I don't feel right in this situation. It's like going to a drunken party. Is that the best place for a recovering alcoholic? No, it's not. And I don't feel like going to drunken parties. I do go to places where people drink, otherwise I might just end up in isolation. At the same time, I keep on path with fellowship and people outside, family particularly, who love me being sober, and friends in fellowship who are always sober for one day, just like me, and we feel equal to each other. So beware the crackpots and those who have control issues, those who align themselves with God and say, God is telling me to tell you this, are deluded. God does not align himself or herself or itself with anything. It is the truth, love and wisdom of the universe in the moment of now, the reality of now where it works. That's my belief. But common ground, we could argue till doomsday about what it is, and we will never change minds. It's not about changing minds, it's about the path we choose, truth, love and wisdom, to the good of living for everyone, being a part of and included. Enough. Gone on a bit longer than I expected. So I had to get it out of my system by sharing. You know, good, bad and ugly, that's what life is. It's how we cope with it, how we ask for help, how we don't drink one day at a time if we're an alcoholic in recovery. So there we are. There'll be more to do, and I can get back to my hobbies and fun bits. So just for today, the Serenity Prayer, can do, can't do, wisdom to know the difference is what I'm going to be learning all day long. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In the moment, can do, can't do wisdom in the minute, day, hour, day, just for today.